Is engineering something that you find interesting, but you think it's a little scary or maybe even a little too hard? Well, I'm here to tell you that it's absolutely not. But that's okay, because I'm going to give you some of my personal tips and tricks to making sure you come out on top of engineering school. Cut it. Dude, I'm serious. Cut it. Dude, cut it! Hey, what's up guys? This is Frankie. If you're new to this channel, but you're into cars and engineering and stuff, hit that subscribe button down below. And if you like this video and really got something out of it, go down below and hit the like button. Anyway, back to it. So you might be a high school senior, maybe even a college sophomore looking to transfer somewhere. Or if you're just somebody that likes cars and likes engineering and just likes to learn.
Nice.
But basically, whoever you are, I hope this video can reach out to you and give you some sort of insight, or if this video can help at all. And even if you're not an engineering student, I think it's really helpful to be able to go into different disciplines and different areas and try to extrapolate whatever sticks to you, whatever's going to help you, finish your degree. That's the real point that I want to make with this video. I want to give you as many tips that I can that help me get close to my degree, but to get you closer to your degree. So tip number one is gonna be always talk to your professors. I don't care if it's week 0, I don't care if it's week 16. Actually, I will be concerned if it's week 16. What I mean is make sure you talk to your professors, not just to get necessarily answers or even help, but more guidance. Look to them as a mentor. They've been in your shoes. And it might have been 20, 30, even sometimes 60 years before you did, but they still had to go through it, and they still went through most of the same struggles as you did, which happens to be common problems that a lot of college students face are financial problems, time management problems, and this whole independent lifestyle that you kind of get thrown into because you're 18 years old living at home, and the next thing you know, you're living on your own, set your own bedtime, you set your own rules, and sometimes that doesn't really work out the best, but along the way you do build something that's very important, which is discipline. Sir, yes sir! There's been so many times where I go into professors' office hours, not even to have questions or get questions answered as far as whatever problem set it might be, or if I have any questions on lectures, not even that. It's more just to get to know the professor as a person, because believe it or not, these professors are people and they've actually done some pretty incredible things, and it's always good to reach out to these intellectual peers around us and make sure that we kind of feed and nurture ourselves into all the knowledge that they have to offer, which is a lot. And believe it or not, there's been so many times where I've gone into professors' office hours and we've just built such a great relationship with one another, and he or she might feel confident with me, and that professor might think of you so likely that they'll write you a letter of recommendation. They'll give you tips and pointers on your resume. Shoot, they might even actually get you an interview. So always make sure that you're open to your connections, and honestly the best way to get yourself into the engineering field and get yourself started in doing something very productive and something engineering related is to talk to your professors, because most of those professors aren't there to teach. You have to understand that at a university level, those professors are there to do research. They are not there to teach.
Is he serious with this stuff?
The reason that they're at that school is because the school is offering them some type of stipend, some type of grant to allow them to continue the research that they're interested in, whether it be that they got their PhD in it, or whether they got their master's in it, or rather they just got into the industry and ended up being the leading provider and the leading manufacturer for it. Whatever it might be, those professors are there to do research. That's why they have TAs, not to grade papers, but to actually make some groundbreaking research. So if you're communicating effectively with most or all of your professors, there's a pretty big shot that you're going to get some type of internship or some type of research opportunity that's going to benefit you in the future. And back to this whole association, number 2 is find a good group of friends / study partners, because at the end of the day, when it's test day or it's the week before finals week, you are going to need somebody else to be able to talk about these problem sets. In the lower division classes, you might get away with it, with calculus and with physics and chemistry. You might get away with being able to dissect that book or go online and search it and stuff like that. But when you get to these upper division classes, you're not going to have any of that. There's not going to be a solution manual for it. you have to work it out. So it's really nice and really good for you to associate yourself with other people that have the same goal as you. They want to graduate, they're learning engineering, and they're going for the same degree that you are. You know, help each other out. But it's also very easy to get together with a group of friends and just mess around.
Let's go get fucked up. Sounds good.
Start playing Fortnite or start playing PUBG, or you know, just start talking about, you know, a party you went to, whatever it might be. Your mind is, give yourself a reason to basically not focus on a certain task. So you have to make sure you find a good group of friends that you guys are able to motivate one another, encourage one another, and give each other, you know, actual real feedback. And you know, that's what you really need. You need those friends that are gonna be with you, you know, when times are tough, but also tell you that, hey man, if you're not picking up your work, you know, you're gonna ultimately fail. And even like a more non-academic reason is just to socialize. You know, you meet so many people just by word of mouth, just by going into groups of people and just giving your 2 cents, giving your opinion and stuff. That's how you're gonna get noticed, by going into groups and disrupting it. That's basically what it is, and forming your own little alliance where you guys or girls can come together and rely on one another. Because there are going to be times where, let's say you're running late to a test, there's traffic, and this has happened to me plenty of times.
Get out of my parking spot, dipwad!
I get to the parking lot and I can't find parking, and my class is across campus, and I have 5 minutes until the test starts, and I realize halfway through walking to my class that I need a Scantron. I'm panicking, you know, but luckily I'm able to just call a friend saying, hey, do you have an extra Scantron? He'd be like, yeah, I got you. Or even call somebody saying, hey,
yo, where you at?
Can you go ahead and pick me up a Scantron? You need homies, you know, you need people to help you get through this struggle, because like I said, everyone's trying to graduate. But basically, from my experience, the more people that I've known, the easier the classes have been. And not necessarily that the material has been easier, it's just handling the workload and handling the assignments and handling my mind having to digest all these complex, you know, derivations and calculations and stuff. It's easier for me when I have a group of friends that are already talking about it. They already have a conversation going, they're already applying it, they're already, you know, trying to get it done, and they're talking about it. And that's ultimately how you're going to learn the most, by talking about things and discussing it with peers. That's what college is for. That's what you're there for.
Do it!
Now this one's very important. You need to find something, or you need to find some type of happy place where you can find motivation. It's very easy to get halfway through a semester, halfway through a quarter, or even halfway through a year and lose all sorts of motivation. And it's common, you know, you shouldn't feel bad, you know, it happens to everyone. But a lot of people don't realize, even though everyone goes through it, doesn't mean that everyone's outcome is the same. Therefore, you are actually the only person that's responsible for your outcome. Therefore, you should be able to find ways to get motivated. I've always believed in that you have, you know, so much willpower and 100% willpower to do whatever you want, you know, but you have to be able to find a little something that sparks that kind of tunnel vision mentality. I have that tunnel vision from playing sports. So I played football and baseball, so you know, I've always been able to know when to turn it on and when to turn it off. That's when things show. The coach is going to know, or the teacher is going to know, if you've been putting in the work, if you've been going to practices, if you've been going to tutoring sessions. Basically, if you've been putting in the work, come test day, come game day, that's when the coach is going to see how you're going to react to these tough situations. Same way with a teacher. The teacher's going to throw you a midterm problem that might seem impossible, but you better know damn well that you should have been prepared for that problem. And I know, some teachers are just straight up what's the word? They just don't care. And like I said, they're there to do research. They're not there to teach you things. Some of them are, thank God for the ones that are. You might have a bad day one day and you might lose all motivation and you have a test the next day. You need to find something to get you out of that slump. Slump buster. Look it up on Urban Dictionary. But you need something basically to get you out of your slump and get you back into that forward moving mindset that you started the semester. Alright, this next tip is find your craft. And what I mean by that is find something that you're good at. Not only that you're good at, but that you can do over and over again and not get tired. You know what that's called, baby? It's called passion. And you have to have it too. If you want to do anything well, you have to have passion. You should find something that interests you, find something that you're good at, put it together and see how far that can take you. Because right off the bat, if you're trying to do engineering, you have to understand that there are so many types of engineering, so many different disciplines, so many different subcategories to those disciplines, and the list goes on. So it's crucial that you actually go out there and learn as much as you can, you know, hands-on of the different types of engineering disciplines that are out there. And once you find something that you actually like, something that you're interested in, you begin to mold it into what becomes your craft. For me, right now, that is cars. And right now, specifically, that's me modifying my car and doing all the modifications myself. Even though I have no prior knowledge, all I need is, you know, my willpower and my motivation to keep moving forward. You'll start to realize that engineering becomes a lot more fun. Once you know exactly what you're looking for it in engineering is going to be so much easier, and it's going to be so much more enjoyable down the road. I always like to give the analogy of the bamboo seed. If you're not familiar with the bamboo seed is a very hard shell. And obviously, as if you're familiar with bamboo, it's very strong, very durable, and they grow up to 90 feet tall. But what a lot of people don't realize about the bamboo tree is that the seed is so hard that it actually has to be nurtured constantly and for a very long period of time. The bamboo seed actually has to be watered every single day for 5 years. And if the bamboo seed is not watered consecutively, if it misses a day, it actually kills the seed and it makes it impossible for it to grow out. That's how hard this shell is. So I always like to make that analogy with my goals, because I set a goal that seems so hard to reach, seems so hard to break the surface. Yet if I continually work on my craft, if I continuously put in the hours that I necessarily have to put in every single day, eventually my bamboo will grow. And another interesting fact about the bamboo tree is after those 5 years are done and the seed is broken and the roots start coming out, the bamboo tree grows 90 feet in 6 weeks. The question now becomes, did the bamboo tree grow in 5 years or in 6 weeks? Leave a comment down below of what you think, but the actual answer is it took 5 years, because you had to consistently nurture that goal and consistently put effort and time into that seed for it to eventually blossom. So what the takeaway is, if you work on your dreams and if you work on your goal every single day, eventually it's going to happen. You start to see a trend here. You have the motivation now, you have a goal or a certain craft that you want to master. The next thing is planning it all out and managing all that time, you know, to make sure that you give each one of your goals the necessary amount of attention that it needs. If you don't work on your goals, if you don't work on that craft every single day, your goal is going to die. You need to be consistent, you need to be hungry, and you need to be motivated, you know, to know that if I don't water this plant today, if I don't work on my craft, if I don't study, if I don't go to the gym, if I don't do this, then that might be the deciding factor between me graduating or me being able to afford that down payment on the house, you know, whatever. It all leads into those things, but you have to get into a mentality where you have to make sure you manage everything out. So early on, I was advised from a mentor of mine that the best platform to do that is Google Calendar. And at first I was skeptical. At first I would put everything in my little notebook journal and I would revisit it every day. As long as you revisit it every day, it's perfect. But what I started to see is that you should work smarter and not necessarily harder in some instances. So for me, it took way too much time for me to organize my planner, organize all that stuff to where I can fill in my classes, I can fill in the blocks for it, for when I'm gonna study, when my professor's office hours are, when assignments are due. So that was taking a lot of time out of hand. Once I flipped over to the computerized version, then I saw how easy it was for me to just literally click, drop, enter the name of the class, and then repeat it every other week for 20 weeks. You know, perfect, done. And it was easier. And then also what I liked is that it would give me notifications, so in case I was in a rush or it was a stressful week and stuff, I'm still able to get alerts and be constantly alerted on what I have to do every single day. So find whatever you need to do to stay organized. Make sure that you're able to fill slots for, you know, basically the whole day. So what I would recommend doing is, as soon as you get your class schedule, put in all the blocks that you have for class in for the entire 3 months, 2 months that you have that class for. After that, once you start class and you have the syllabus, you know, sometimes the professors even email the syllabus beforehand. They'll give you an outline, a chapter outline. They'll even sometimes give you when your quizzes are. They'll give you when midterms are, when finals are. As soon as you get that information, I highly recommend you put it straight into your Google Calendar, straight into your planner, so you don't forget about it, you don't push it back. You know, all you have to do is open up your journal when it's week 1, week 2, whatever it might be, and everything is there. You're organized from the beginning. I highly recommend that. Another pro tip, major key, is to also look at when your professors or TAs are available and also put those block times into your calendar. So you could just have those blocks, and whenever you're stuck on a problem, you can just go to your calendar and say, shit. Next TA available is gonna be Thursday at 4 p.m. Okay, cool. I don't have class during that block. I'm gonna go tomorrow, next week, whatever it might be, and I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna ask the question. How hard would it be if you were stuck and you wanted to go to TAs and then you had to go and look through all of your files, go online and look through all of the archives just to look for something that you should have looked for 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago? So it's very advantageous for you to get early on this and plan it out as best as you can. Basically, the more stuff you put on there, the less stuff you have to remember. Don't have to remember it. It could all stay in here, but work smarter, not harder. Now with that, you have all this going on, you have a schedule that's filled out, it's nice, it's all planned for, it's all accounted for. Now, what's the next step? Balance it out, have some fun. I think the biggest thing that has helped me be successful in engineering is the fact that I'm able to, like I said, turn it on and turn it off. When I have an assignment due, I know that I'm gonna sit down, put on classical music, put on whatever type of music that you like. Apple fan. Something that gets your mind into the state to study, whatever it might be, whatever environment it might be, you do that. But guess what? You have checked everything off your goal list or your to-do list. You have to reward yourself. Let's work hard, play hard. I'm not saying you have to go out and party, explore, spiritually, mentally, something that makes you relax. I don't care what it is. If it's spending time with your parents, do it. If it's playing handball, go do it. If it's going and partying, go do it, but whatever it is, make sure you balance it out, because at the end of the day, you're there to enjoy yourself and to learn. Not just to learn, you're there to do both. So just do it! My next tip is to have some type of technical know-how. And what I mean by that is learn engineering softwares, learn how to use different types of power tools or hand tools, learn how to draw straight lines. But in engineering, if you know how to draw a straight line without a ruler, you're basically a god. Because there's so many situations where you have to measure something, or you have to outline something, sketch something, mock something up. And if you don't know how to use these basic tools like a tape measure or a bandsaw or something a little bit harder like a CNC, or if you know how to MIG weld or TIG weld or flux core, all these different engineering terms, and as long as you have a small basis in every one of those, I think that's fine. That's how I started off. I came in not really knowing how to weld, not knowing how to solder, not knowing how to code, but I knew of it. So when I actually went about learning it, I wasn't so shocked as to say, oh my God, what is this? I've never seen this in my life. Instead, what I was doing is I was saying, I actually heard about this. I heard about HTML, I heard about CSS, I heard about MATLAB. I know what these softwares are used for. So as I'm learning this software, or as I'm in class learning this software, I'm able to ask these dynamic questions to the professor or to my colleagues, saying, actually being able to relate the two. Oh, MATLAB to simulations, LabVIEW to experimental analysis. Oh, C++ to object-oriented programming. All these things, they're one and the same. So you have to be able to connect these things. But learning these tools is actually very, very helpful. There's been so many times where just because I know a certain software language, I get internship offers that aren't even in my field. So for instance, I had such a heavy controls background and such a heavy coding background like MATLAB, I was offered a electrical engineering intern job at Cummins. And if you're not familiar with Cummins, just look at a RAM and basically there's a Cummins in there. So Cummins Incorporated is a Fortune 500 company. They specialize in diesel engines and high performing diesel machines. They actually have been around for a little bit over 100 years. Came out with their first diesel engine, which was actually close to one of the ones that were invented back in the early 1900s. But basically I was offered this job. I was flown out to Indiana, and even though I'm a mechanical engineering major, I was still given this great opportunity, an opportunity that not a lot of people are given. And that was simply because I was ahead of somebody in a software, in a technical skill. So that might be the same thing for you. Let's say you're into manufacturing. A huge thing to know in the engineering manufacturing is to CNC, how to operate a CNC machine, how to operate a mill, press, all these different terms. You have to just kind of understand them. But if that's something that you're going into hard, it would be a very good idea to get an apprenticeship, at a machine shop, or take the class, or take a smaller class at a community college or whatever, a technical school, to get yourself familiarized with that subject. When you get into these engineering projects and these senior design projects, it is very helpful to know these tools as well. And it might be something as simple as knowing how to drill a screw, the pilot screw, knowing the different types of screws, the different types of drills, a counterbore, a countersink. All these different terminology you're going to have to learn. So if you learn this beforehand, it's going to be so much easier when you're going into classes or you're going into group projects and activities, because you know a little bit more than everyone else and you have that competitive edge. And I'll tell you what, competitive edge is good. Now this one might be obvious, but to others in the engineering field, it might not be. So you think of engineers and you think of these dorky, math-loving, Dad Gene, New Balance, Sheldon, Big Bang Theory looking guy. You think of that, you kind of associate yourself to an introverted type of person. But in reality, in the engineering field, you need to be very extroverted. You need to be able to explain ideas and reciprocate, and you also need to be able to transfer your ideas to other people to make sure that they understand it, and that is very difficult. Something that has helped me tremendously is being a leader. So a lot of engineers think that leadership or having a social aspect in your life isn't necessarily going to help you in engineering, but it's actually quite the opposite. There's been so many times where just because I'm a social person, or I'm able to talk, or you can hear me, or when I walk into a room, I know what the hell I'm talking about. Those little factors is the defining difference between all these other people. So when I go into these career fairs, I'm going in there and I'm able to talk to any person there. I'm able to spark conversation. I'm able to make things interesting in whatever situation possible. And I wouldn't have been able to get that if I wasn't a social person on campus, or if I wasn't a leader on campus. And at East Los Angeles College, I held presidencies all 3 years while being there. Even since high school, even since middle school actually, I've always been known to be an outspoken person, more annoying than helpful. I'm actually trying to change this with this channel, hopefully. But the biggest thing that I think I got from being a leader wasn't necessarily the talking skills, but being able to be around people and make a difference. And that's what I was doing. So if my presence is valued so much that it's impacting somebody's life, I think that's worth it. And that's what a leader has to do. When you get into any type of engineering field, you have to understand that you're doing most of these parts, most of these jobs, most of these designs to help somebody else. It might be designing a new type of knee brace for offensive linemen in the NFL. You're helping somebody there because knee injuries are one of the leading causes of offensive line depletion in the NFL. Or you could be advancing stem cell research, in biomedical engineering. So whatever you do, you have to understand that you're doing this for a bigger cause. And if you act on that early on and you get that feeling by you doing something productive, it actually helps somebody else, that feeling is going to transcend throughout any job, any career, anything that you do. Being a leader is absolutely necessary because the things that you learn just can't be taught. You have to go through it and you have to experience it. My next tip is to be ambitious. And I say this because I solely believe that the only reason I'm as successful as I am is because of my ambitions, because I've really given myself some pretty high expectations, and I really expect for you to give yourself the same. So for me at least, I was always looked down upon. I always wasn't looked as the smartest and stuff, so I used that. That became my motivation to make me achieve more than I was intended to strive for. So for me, it was always striving for more. If I knew I couldn't get into something, I would still apply just for the experience. And so for instance, I was applying to Berkeley and MIT and Michigan for their summer research programs. I was that ambitious that I strove for the very best. Guess what? I didn't get into any of those. but I did get into UCLA's undergraduate research program.
My nigga.
For me, at least, I was not complaining at all, because that is the quintessence of me striving for the stars and landing on the clouds. And I follow that same guide throughout my entire life, and I've gotten so many internships because of that. I got my USC internship doing it that way. I got my Cummins internship doing it that way. And I want to make sure that you're leaving your mark. I want to be remembered. So that same ambition is being, transferred over to college and to my engineering career and to my entrepreneurial goals. It's going all across the board, and that same ambition is honestly something that I think is crucial for any college person. And it does go back to the motivation, but the motivation ties into the ambition. The ambition is the initial spark. You need to give your engine the initial spark for you to get your career going and for you to do the best that you can do. Now, my next tip is to always ask for help. Even if you don't need it, or even if you're just a little bit confused, it is always advantageous for you to ask for help. I'm gonna let you know right off the bat, in college, specifically in engineering, there's a huge secret that people keep, but guess what? I'm gonna give it to you right now. No one gives a flying fuck how smart you are. And it's simple as that. If you are gonna walk around campus and think that you're the biggest and baddest person on campus simply because you don't ask questions, that has gotta be the most ignorant and arrogant thing I have possibly heard, because everybody on campus is striving for the same goal. Everyone there is an undergraduate student. Everyone there is pursuing an engineering degree. Therefore, how can somebody else be greater than you? Everyone's equal. Once you know that, once you get that through your head, that everyone in college is equal, no one's better than one another, then it'll be way easier for you to ask for questions, because at the end of the day, everyone's out here trying to get the exact same thing. So why not help one another? Now, this does go back to my previous tip, which is to find a good group of friends, a good group of study friends. So if you have that category already filled, guess what? You already have this category filled. If you have good friends around you, then you are already asking questions. You already feel comfortable making sure that you understand material, and that is step one. You have to be honest with yourself and ask yourself, do I really know this material? And if you're honest with yourself about that, then I guarantee you'll do well in every single one of your tests. So a major tip right off the bat, and this should be implemented early on in your college career or even your high school career, and it is communication. Communication is huge, and I'm talking about in every single sense of the word of communication. I'm talking internet, I'm talking personal, I'm talking over the phone, I'm talking texting, I'm talking letters, whatever it might be. Just make sure that you're getting, one, your point across, and two, you're getting it there effectively. As soon as you start college, it might feel overwhelming just because of the multitude of emails that you're getting all at once. You should expect to check your email, at least every hour, because professors are always sending emails, are always sending updates. If it's not the professor, then it's the TA. If it's not the TA, then it's the campus. If it's not the campus, then it's a club. There's always important stuff out there. So make sure you're always checking your emails, communicating with professors, because a lot of times the way you get internships is by being proactive. And when the school sends you a job alert, or it sends you an email saying to apply to this job, if you're always checking your emails and if you're one of the first people to apply, guess what? Those people are going to realize that. You might not notice it, but those applications actually have timestamps, and that timestamp corresponds to how early you turn in your application. And I think for me, if I own the company, that is something that I for sure look for my employees, is for someone to be punctual and someone to be on time, and like I said before, be ambitious. I'm not lying to you guys.
It's a real deal. You need to listen to him.
So for me personally, this has been a tip that has helped me tremendously, and it's actually a tip that nobody taught me. It's something that I had to learn all by myself. So this next tip is learn how to learn material on your own. I guarantee it that in your engineering career, you are going to find the magic professor that is there only to do research and does not care about teaching. Or you might get the other scenario where your teacher's about 97 years old. He's the one that discovered the Navier-Stokes equation. There's been so many situations that I've been thrown into. For instance, at UCLA, I was thrown in there. I was a sophomore. I was 19 years old. I think I had barely taken Calculus 2 or Calculus 3 and like Physics 1. So I wasn't really that prepared, but like I said, I was very ambitious and I was hungry. I was ready to go out there and prove my point, to make my mark. So going in there, right off the bat, my mentor told me, so we can either do it two ways. You can either do everything by hand or you can learn this software. So the software ended up being SolidWorks and also ended up being LabVIEW. So what did I do? First week that I was there, after I was debriefed, after I was done doing everything that weekend,
I got drunk and thought my reflection was another dog.
I literally stayed in my room and I learned SolidWorks. I was on YouTube and I was looking at tutorials, I was downloading books and I was reading those books, and guess what? Come Monday, when we were starting the project, I was able to communicate to my mentor a lot more effectively because I was communicating to him in engineering terms, and that's huge. You know, it's always hard for two people to understand each other, but the good thing is that in engineering, if you both have that engineering lingo, you guys are both going to understand what's going on. Same situation happened at USC. When I was doing my research first week there, I knew I had to take data points, and you know, for everyone that knows about data, you primarily use Excel. The more engineering side of that is actually able to compute more and faster, and the software is called MATLAB. So right off the bat, the professor told me, "Oh, do you know MATLAB?" I looked at him dead in his eye and I said, "I don't know MATLAB, but I will by Monday." He laughed and he said, "No, it's okay. You could always do Excel." I said, "No, Monday comes, I'm gonna know MATLAB." Same thing. Spent the whole week learning MATLAB. Looked at videos, looked at tutorials, whatever I could get my hands on that would help me. And guess what? I improved my MATLAB skills tenfold that summer. I was able to learn MATLAB all by myself and learn basically everything there is to know about MATLAB. When I got interviewed for Cummins Incorporated, what did they ask me primarily? They asked me about my MATLAB experience, my SolidWorks experience, and my control systems experience. That would have never happened if I would have never taken the initiative myself to learn these things. So that's why I say it's the most important thing, because you never know when you're gonna need that type of skill. This is a skill that you could only learn. So like bringing it back, if you're gonna have a professor that is there to do research and is not there to teach, so it's your responsibility to be able to pick up a textbook, dissect that textbook, go online, look at any resources that you have to look online. I recommend Chegg, I recommend StudyBlue, and I also recommend Course Hero. Those things give solution manuals, and the subscription is very, very low, and it's only monthly. So it's something that every college student can do, especially because I know every college student is at least spending $15 a week, you know, on fast food alone, or coffee, or whatever it might be. So you have those $15, $10 that it costs to get those memberships, but it is going to be very crucial and very helpful in the long run. You're able to learn any material at any time that you want. And those are my top tips and tricks to make sure that you succeed in engineering. So just as a disclaimer, just because these tips work for me doesn't necessarily mean they're going to work for you, but I'm pretty confident that they will. I say this because I've given this advice to a lot of my club members, family members, and to my close friends, and we're all doing well. And just know that when you're following these tips, you don't necessarily have to go exactly how I said. It's okay for you to adjust it according to your circumstances. That's very important, because we all have different circumstances. Some of us have to work, some of us have different responsibilities, some of us have families. So depending on your situation, just try and use these tips and try to incorporate them into your daily life. Whether you implement these tips and tricks into your life or you don't, I still appreciate the fact that you guys stayed on this channel and watched this entire video. Do me a favor, if you're already in college, if you're already at a university, why don't you go down below and leave a comment with your school, your type of engineering, and some of your top tips that help you get through engineering. But with that being said, thank you everyone for watching. It really means a lot. And remember, the people that are crazy enough to change the world are the ones that actually do. And like always, stay boosted.